Hello, welcome everyone to our first user group meeting of the year. Yay, we're here. Um, we are really excited today to have a presentation with Eric Dreshfield. He's going to present on Mogli and also on how to build your personal brand. So we have two presentations for the price of one today. So all right, so here are your user group leaders. I am Melissa Shook. I am a senior Salesforce administrator. I've been administrator for nearly 10 years in Salesforce. And yeah, that's it. Nadina?
Nadina Lisbon. I'm a Salesforce technical architect for TradeShift. Happy to have everyone here. I'll also do Lindsay's own as she won't be here today. She's a application architect for Silicon Labs.
Hey everybody, I'm a Salesforce technical architect at Vacasa. Been in the Salesforce ecosystem for I think going on 10 years now as well. Glad to see everybody tonight.
All right. We start off with our meeting expectations. It is expected that all attendees treat each other with respect. This meeting is a safe space for everyone in the Salesforce Ohana. It's just something we like to make sure we put out there every time. All right, and January announcements. So once again, we are calling for speakers. Anytime you have any idea of a presentation you might want to do this year, let us know. We have a speaker form to fill out. Real simple. Doesn't have to even be a full 45-minute presentation. We can figure out ways to do like shorter ones and maybe do two different people or anything like that. So let us know if you're interested. Also, we have the other admin groups. So the Austin Salesforce admin group is having a presentation on February 8th at 6 p.m. It's going to be on Prodly release management automation for Salesforce. The Salesforce marketing group for Pardot is going to have a meeting on Monday, the 21st at 5:30 p.m. That's going to be on Zoom info form complete and your Pardot forms, which actually I should tell one of my old colleagues about that. It's awesome. March 22nd, March 2022, we will start the next cohort of Skill Up ATX classes. And you don't have to be in Austin to come to them because we're still doing those Skill Up classes remotely. So if you're interested in, getting started to prepare for certifications, a lot of it's for newbies, but there's some specialized things on flows and other specifics that they have as well. So look into it. I believe that most of the Skill Up information is on Meetup that you'll be able to find it. So, all right. Okay, so next, hiring companies. We're leaving the floor open for anyone to let us know if you are with a company or know of a company that is hiring for a Salesforce role.
PayPal.
Hey, Melissa.
Oh, go ahead, Eric.
Sure. Sorry, Zach. I was going to say it's Eric with Mogli. We are actually hiring for I just drew a blank on the title, Salesforce technical consultant or something along those lines. I can't recall the exact job title. That's bizarre. Anyway, if anybody's interested, just let me know and I will get you a copy of the job description so you can take a peek at it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
And PayPal's hiring a lot of Salesforce positions and sales ops positions. We're hiring product managers, Salesforce developers, and of course your standard sales ops roles. So take a look at the PayPal website. If you see any roles you're interested in, feel free to send me a message.
That's great. Awesome.
Hi, Lee Peterson. Sorry, I'm crashing the party. My first time joining you all. I'm at Expedia, and we have some Salesforce roles, anything from admin to engineer, global. So if you all also are interested, just take a look at Expedia's career job board. And if you see anything Salesforcey, or even if it's something that isn't Salesforce, just let me know and I can get you connected with the link that helps get your resume in a little faster and out of the weeds of everything.
That's awesome. What was your name again, Lee?
Lee Peterson. I am just actually taking my first admin exam on Monday. So I have a lot to learn to join you all and get there, but got to start somewhere.
No, it's yeah. It's great. Once you get your first one, a lot of us just keep going, and it's a great track to start on. So
Cool. Thank you.
yeah. Anyone else hiring? And then we'll go to job seekers. All right. Job seekers. Who is looking for a new role? I'll speak up. I am looking. I am a senior Salesforce administrator. Been mostly at small to medium-sized businesses as a solo admin or lead admin for the past 8 to 9 years, and yeah, I'm just looking for my next steps. So I can I'll put my email address in the chat once I can get to that a little later. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Frances. I'm also looking. I'm still fairly new to the Salesforce space, but I'm just curious to see what's out there. So that's why I'm trying to network and join different groups to learn more about it. So
Awesome. Great. All right.
And then in the chat, Melissa, Devin Compton mentioned that Cloud for Good is also hiring quite a few roles in the nonprofit space. So hopefully, Devin, we can direct people to you if they're interested.
Yes. Great. Thank you. Yeah, I can't see the chat right now. So, all right.
Hi, everybody. I am Jing Jing. I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina. I got a 4 month Salesforce administrator intern experience, and I passed my PAS Salesforce admin and app builder certification. I got the silver badge, and I'm a 3X Rangers. So I started hard, working on the trailhead, and because I have some technical background is in my IT and business administration major. So I looking for like a junior Salesforce admin role, or any like a sales in the sales operation team, more like analyze data, but also use the Salesforce tool as well.
Yeah, that's great. Awesome. Okay. All right, I'm going to move on to the next slide here. So this is kind of just letting you know that we do have some gift cards to give away today. We will do it at the end of the presentation. And basically, you just have to be here to win and participate, and you just have to be presented. You have to be present to be selected. We'll announce who the winner is at the end. And the gift cards are to be used at the Trailhead America store. So. All right, so now we have Eric Dreshfield presenting today. So Eric is a connector, a blogger, a marketer, a mentor for those new to the Salesforce ecosystem, and a community advocate, and a Twitter advocate as well. You definitely find him there. He's been working in the Salesforce ecosystem since 2009 with experience across multiple industries, including transportation, retail, life sciences, and more. He is able to bridge the gap between technology and the people who rely on it. and he's the founder of Midwest Dreamin'. He's a Salesforce MVP from 2013 to 2020, and he's now in the Salesforce MVP Hall of Fame. He is the Kevin Bacon of the Salesforce ecosystem and a project evangelist at Mogli. Welcome, Eric Dreshfield.
Thanks, Melissa.
You're welcome.
Glad to be here.
All right, I'm going to stop sharing and let you get to it.
Absolutely. So bear with me 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we're going to do a very brief discussion on Mogli with a very small demo. And then we'll get to the part that you really all probably wanted to come see, which was the discussion around personal branding and what it can do for your career. A little bit about Mogli. We are a Salesforce ISV partner and a Salesforce.org partner and a member of the Pledge 1% organization, or I guess that's the right way to word that. You can see my contact information on the screen, my email, my cell phone number, and my little picture, which is very similar to the one you see in the platform here. I use that same headshot everywhere. So just a few of our clients here at Mogli that you can see logos of. You see a lot of nonprofits, a lot of higher education, some commercial customers. And at the top center, you also will notice Salesforce. We're kind of proud of the fact that Salesforce has used our technology. So that's really pretty neat. So why should we use text messaging? Well, think about it. How many of you have your own cell phone, right? Everybody's got one these days. Industry statistics basically say that roughly 97% of Americans use their texting app of some variety or another at least once a day, as well as the open rates on text messages are in the 98% range, and response rates are around 45 to 50%, compared to emails, which are roughly 1/3 of that or less. So we're obviously open rates and response rates are way better through texting. I have heard one person once tell me people get text messages, but they have to open emails. And I think that kind of sums it up right there, doesn't it? So in additional statistics, most text messages are read and responded to very quickly, generally within 3 minutes. So where did Mogli get their start, and how did we become who we are today? Originally, Mogli was developed in 2012. Our founder was on a project to help farmers in rural Africa to protect their crops from disease. He was working with a nonprofit organization called New Root International to build something out that would help them provide information to these farmers. Like I said, they were in rural Africa, so they literally had very limited access to electricity. They were living in mud huts, things like that. So really the only electricity that they kind of had access to was enough to charge a cell phone. So all of these farmers had flip phones. So that was the method of communication that was built, that Mogli was built around, was to provide information to these farmers to help them protect their crops from disease, from weather issues and things like that. So Mogli built this, what was originally a one-way messaging product where New Root could simply send out messages to the farmers and tell them things to watch out for, how to protect crops and things of that nature. And then over the years since then, it has expanded quite a bit. You can do lots of additional things with it. Two-way messaging obviously makes a lot more sense than one way, so you can actually have conversations with clients, constituents, prospects, whatever. So how do most of our clients use Mogli? One-to-one text message conversations is by far one of the biggest things that it's used for. Additionally, bulk messaging is available, personalized bulk messaging. So then this is all native within Salesforce, by the way. So you have the ability to send messages out to literally thousands of people at a time, based upon either reports, lists, or something else that I'm totally escaping me within Salesforce. And we'll show you that in just a few minutes. So you can see a few of the other things that we have capabilities for: scheduled reminders, notifications, survey capabilities, and things of that nature. Just some of the bragging about the company. We have won lots of awards. We are the current 2021 Salesforce.org Higher Education ISV Partner of the Year. Rob, our CRO, who's the bald guy here in the slide, he is on the App Exchange Advisory Board. And then Mogli likes to win demo jams fairly often. I guess all partners probably like to win demo jams, but Mogli has been pretty successful at winning demo jams over the last 3-4 years at a lot of different events, including Dreamforce 2019. So let's get into a quick demo. So let me shift to a different screen. Hold on one moment. All right, so now what you're seeing is on the left-hand side of the screen, you're looking at a contact record within Salesforce. And on the right-hand side of the screen, we're simply looking at Google Voice. And that has nothing to do with Mogli. We're just going to use that to demonstrate the text messages going back and forth between Salesforce and the person you're texting, in this case, the Google Voice. So a couple things to point out right at the beginning. Mogli is configurable on any standard or custom object. The only thing that we need is a phone number for the individuals that you're going to text with, obviously a mobile phone number. And what you see right below mobile phone number on the screen here is this thing that we call the Mogli number, which if you look at it, it's exactly the same thing as the mobile number, but it doesn't have the brackets, the dash, and it does have the country code thrown into it as well. There is a flow that happens behind the scenes within this Salesforce. So once you fill in the mobile number, the Mogli number gets created for you, and that becomes the unique identifier that Mogli uses to know who you're having conversations with. One other thing to point out on this screen is this opt-out checkbox here, which right now you see is unchecked, which means we can talk to this person. Because of spam laws and all those kinds of things, you have to explicitly get permission from individuals to have conversations with them through text messaging. And there's a few ways that can happen. You can send them a form that says, hey, we'd like to talk to you. Is it okay if we do it by text? And if they respond back, yes, you're good. If they start a conversation with you through text messaging by, say, texting into a keyword to a specific number, that's implied consent. And so you're good there. And if for some reason anything changes and they want to stop having a text conversation with you, they can text back in keywords like stop, and it will automatically shut this off for them and check the box. Or you can come in here, manually check the box, and save the record. And when that happens, when the opt-out check mark is on, you'll still see the conversation history on the side of the screen here, but it'll be grayed out and you won't have the ability to have any additional conversations until that opt-out box has been turned back off. So let's see how Mogli works, shall we? So you can see the Mogli conversation here on the right-hand portion of Salesforce. I want to point out a couple other things to you. You do have the ability to simply freeform text to type something in if you want to and send it to have these conversations. And hopefully we'll see that pop up over here in just a second. Sometimes Google Voice, there it is. Sometimes it's slower than others. You also have the ability to use templates. So things that you, for example, want to use regularly with various customers, you can build out as many of these templates as you want. Let's just take a look at this email confirmation one, for example. And what you can see here is we're pulling in merge fields from Salesforce. So the text as it appears right now says, hi, first name, is your email still email? But as soon as I send it, you're going to see that it changes. Hi, Eric, is your email still eric@mogli.com? We should see that pop up over here. And Eric's going to respond back with yes, just because he wants to confirm that that's correct. So we'll see that as well. So you have the ability as well to send immediately like we've seen, but you have the ability to schedule these texts to go out at a given point in time as well. So you can pick a date, you can pick a time, and it will send out whenever you want it to, because obviously you don't want to be texting people in the middle of the night unless you know that they're night owls or that they maybe work a third shift job, those kinds of things. That's about all I really want to point out on this screen. So let's take a look at Mogli in action a little bit further than what we just demonstrated with the email confirmation there. So I'm going to be this person out here, out wherever he happens to be, and what he was asked to do. He received an email that said, "Hey, we have some questions we'd like to ask you. Text the word student to this number to get started." So we will do that. And what this is going to do is activate the survey feature within Mogli. And you can see the conversation popping up on this side. We should see the response as well on the student side. And one thing I do want to point out on the Mogli conversation section in here, you'll notice that what the person texting you with, the person you're texting with, theirs are black. The automated ones are red, and these colors are configurable. So if you have multiple individuals in your organization texting with people on a one-on-one type conversation, you can configure it so that someone's red, someone's yellow, someone's green, so that when you're within Salesforce looking at the conversations, you'll understand who's actually having which piece of the conversation with your students, with your clients, with whoever that may be. So back to the survey for a second here. It says, "Thanks for your interest in Mogli U. Are you ready to start your survey? Reply yes or no." So we're obviously thinking, we're pretending we're a college and interacting with potential college students. And you and I all know that students don't always follow directions. So they may not read properly. They may not realize that it says reply yes or no. So we're going to be a little bit of a rebel, and I'm just going to respond back with yep. And what this is going to demonstrate is that Mogli has business intelligence built into it. And what it's going to realize is yep is the same thing as yes. You can configure Mogli to understand that. You can also configure it to realize that thumbs up is the same thing as yes, thumbs down is the same thing as no. You can get it to respond to or all sorts of variations like that. We don't like to call that a chatbot feature because it's not truly using artificial intelligence. The capability to respond to various types of responses like that is built in. It's objects within Salesforce that you can add the data to your liking to have those proper conversations. So here's another great example of this. What grade are you in? Well, you're a senior in high school, so do you want to put a 12? Do you want to write the word 12? Do you want to say I'm in 12th grade? It'll accept all of those, and it will come back and respond, realizing that you're a senior. It should come back here eventually and say seniors rule. Great. What's your grade point average? Looks like Google Voice is running a little slow at the moment. So we will just hold off for a second and let it catch up. There is one thing I do want to point out, that if you are the individual within the organization having this conversation with someone, and say you're off in reports land, you're doing something else, you're building a report. What you notice down here in this corner of the screen, the left corner of the screen, this little tab that says Mogli notifications. So what that is going to do, I hope, if it's going to work right, what should happen when the individual responds to your text message, what should happen is there'll be an audible chime, and then this will start blinking. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. We've been doing a lot of testing in our demo org lately, so more than likely that's probably why it's not working. But normally what you would see then, this would blink and you'd have the ability to click on it. You'd see the actual conversation right in here, and you can click on it from this notification, and it would take you straight back to this same view where you can see the full conversation. But unfortunately, we must have things a little messed up in-house right now because that did not function. Anyway, this kind of gives you a quick overview of the survey functionality and how things look within Salesforce. Switch this a little. The conversation view here. Oh, see, it's responded with something I wasn't expecting as well. So we'll just pretend like that didn't happen. So the conversation view here that you're seeing on the right-hand side of the screen now, this is going to hold the most recent 300 interactions of that conversation. If you wanted to actually see the full conversation, that's available through the SMS tab, and then you can click through any of these to get to conversations. And what you'll see then is actually not just the responses from the individuals, but you'll see the questions and the answers because we store all of those together. And that makes it so it's meaningful information. If you just saw a 5, you wouldn't know what it meant other than 5. But if you saw on a 1 to 5 scale, how likely are you to attend Mogli University? And then you saw 5, you'd know that person's really likely, and you could take some action based on that. So with this being native to Salesforce, all the standard Salesforce reporting capabilities are here. You can build reports and dashboards that reflect all this data and show it off to whoever you need to at your organization. And I think that's about all I want to share for the Mogli side of things. Gives you a quick overview and a little bit of a taste into what Mogli can do. And of course, if you're interested in a much more in-depth demo, feel free to shoot me an email, and I will make sure that we can get you taken care of. So now let's switch over.
Eric, you had a few questions on Mogli.
Oh, sure.
Did you want to address them now?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay, sure. So Zach had a couple and then a few other people. First one was, how does Mogli consent for automated messaging?
So kind of as I talked to you about at the beginning, Zach, we have to start with getting an individual's consent. Like that survey function I showed where the person texted in a word, they're initiating the conversation with us, so that is gaining their consent. If we send them an email, for example, we can put something in the email that says, if you'd like to have text conversations with us, click here. That will send back things to Salesforce that will check that box, or actually technically uncheck the box, so that we will be allowed to have conversations with them.
And then another question from Zach, does Mogli integrate with hidden software? So sales lock, outreach, high velocity sales?
That's a great question, and I don't know the answer specifically. We are native to Salesforce, so all of the text conversations are simply stored as an object within your Salesforce instance. So I don't know if that clears it up a little for you, Zach, but I can certainly try to get some more information from the people who really know the answer to that question and get back to you.
And then Melissa had one on, has Mogli been affected by the appreciation of the dedicated shortcodes?
That I would imagine that's going to be an impact for us. I don't have the right answer for that for you either. I know we have, there are different gateways that we can use for texting. We have a process, I guess is the right word for it, where we can utilize area codes, utilize numbers with specific area codes so that the people you're texting are receiving text messages from the same area code that they are in, so that it's less likely to be flagged as a spam message.
And then last one from Terry. It's around nonprofits typically using Twilio for Salesforce. What's the main advantages for Mogli or differences versus Twilio?
Great question, Terry. I know a lot of our customers are nonprofits, and they do utilize Mogli for conversations with constituents, for fundraising. I don't know off the top of my head if Twilio is native to Salesforce, so maybe that's our big advantage. I'm not sure, but Terry, I will certainly try to get back to you on that one as well.
Then those were all the questions I saw. So if we have any more, we'll collect them at the end.
Sounds great. And I apologize for not necessarily knowing the answers. This is actually only the second time I have done this demo outside of to just my colleagues. So me being brand new to Mogli 4 months in. So thanks for the leeway and the patience there. I do appreciate it. So let me shift gears here and get to the real presentation that you probably all came here to see. All right. So how can a personal brand drive your career? Well, today's agenda on this one, well, we already know who I am, so we'll probably skip that slide. We'll talk about what makes up a brand and why brand recognition is important, and the differences between branding people and companies, and then things you can do to build and grow your own brand. So yeah, we don't need to cover this one. You've all heard most of this already. Although Melissa, I think you said Twitter advocate. I always claim to be a Twitter addict because there are several Twitter handles that I tweet from. And admitting that you have a problem is the first step in solving it, right? But that's as far as it usually goes for me. So what's a brand? When you think about a brand, what comes to your mind? It's an image or a logo or a word that makes you think of a specific company, a specific product, a specific software, for example. I'm sure you probably all recognize this logo as the Target store, which probably means you probably all recognize this one as well as being a Target competitor or Walmart. And both of those logos kind of bring certain images or certain thoughts to your mind. Maybe you like shopping at one versus the other, or you like the selection of products at one versus the other. And all of those things kind of come to your mind when you see the logo or when you hear their company name. And that's kind of the purpose of a brand, in a sense, is to get you to realize what the company is, who they're all about. A lot of you probably recognize this logo as well. Here in my part of the Midwest, I think it was about 6 years ago when I saw my first Tesla on the streets in Evansville, Indiana. We'd had Toyota Prius cars for probably 10 or 15 years, however long they've been out, we've been seeing them. But it took a while for Tesla to make its way into the market here. So I was pretty surprised by that. But now they're pretty common here as well, even with a Toyota factory just a few miles up the road from us. So what is it that makes up a good brand? What do you think of as a good brand? Who are some examples of brands that are doing good work, that are doing what's right for their customers, for example? Obviously, Salesforce comes to mind for a lot of us, probably because of the 1-1-1 model and all the good that they try to do in the world, besides simply providing great software and great platform for their customers. So let's talk about brand recognition. What is it? Why is that important? What's it do? And while I'm just kind of rambling here, think about all the logos that you're seeing on the screen and think about what they might have in common. And what is it doing for you personally? Anybody thirsty now? Because these are all beverage companies, right? I did that on purpose. So brand recognition is certainly important. Obviously, I'm pretty big about this brand, Midwest Raymond, because I created the event back in 2011. I wish the pandemic had not happened because we wouldn't have skipped a couple of years. But Midwest Raymond is coming back. So we're going to do a quick shameless plug just because that's part of my own brand as a person. Midwest Dreamin' is a big part of who I am. So we are coming to Minneapolis in July, assuming COVID doesn't take anything away from us between now and then. We have Peter Coffey and Jillian Bruce already confirmed as keynote speakers. We'll have a nice expo hall with lots of partners in there. I noticed Carlos Sequeira on the call here with us. He's from Elements.cloud. They are one of our sponsoring partners. They have been supporting Midwest Raymond for years. Thank you, Carlos and Elements. So it'd be great to see some of you at Midwest Raymond if you can make it. Registration's already open. We will be doing a call for speakers starting February 1st, give or take a little bit. So if you have a great topic you might want to talk about at a community-led event, that's a great way to help launch your own personal brand. But, so far what we've talked about is companies, right? You're not a company, you're a person. You have unique qualities that make you who you are. So what's different? Why is that a big deal? And what should you still be doing about branding? Well, think about personal brands or logos that you might recognize from within the Salesforce ecosystem. If you've been around the ecosystem for several years, you might know that Mike Gerholt got his start outside Salesforce, and he built his own personal brand, and he was known as the button click admin. And as soon as he was hired by Salesforce, the button click admin kind of went away and became the Salesforce Admins podcast. And it was still Mike Gerholt, but he shifted from wearing the button click admin red shirts to the Salesforce blue shirts because his own branding had shifted when he became a Salesforce employee. The other logos you see are just some other examples of what I feel are pretty strong personal brands within the Salesforce ecosystem. The Rad Women program, Melissa, you probably have participated in that, I would guess, maybe. But that's just a great group of women who started this organization to help train other women to code. And the SF99, for those who may not recognize that, that's David Liu, longtime Salesforce MVP. And he always says anyone can learn to code. And his website, SF99, is Salesforce for the other 99%. It's kind of how he puts that. And he's always sharing inspiring stories of people who learned to code, came from outside of technology and landed themselves great positions within the technology world. So what should you do to start growing a personal brand, and how do you get there? Obviously, you gotta put yourself out there. You gotta find some way to deliver a message of some sort. You gotta start somewhere. Maybe it's just following people in the community or on Twitter and engaging in conversations. But the key, in my opinion, to building a brand is to gain trust with the people you're talking to. Be consistent with the message that you deliver and the way you behave. And that's probably why I put Steve Moe up here and the explicit lyrics advisory warning there. Those are both kind of personal brands of Steve Molis, Answers community champion, longtime Salesforce MVP. He has, at one point, I believe he said he held the record for dropping the most F-bombs in a Dreamforce presentation. So I always liken this parental advisory warning to Steve because of that. So building trust means you need to stay engaged with your customers, whoever it is you're talking to, your counterparts, wherever the conversations are. Make sure you stay engaged with them. My wife was a real estate agent for a while, and she used to always tell me, real estate agents, there's two different kinds. There are the kind that take a listing to sell a house from a client. They put it out there in the internet and assume that the buyers are going to come to them. They list it and forget it. The buyers that are more successful are the ones who work for the business, who engage with people, who push messages about the house, who post things and don't forget about them. So hence you see all these images are around streets not being one way or things being one way versus two way, or the real estate industry with the house for sale. It's a little bit of a lesson I took from my wife. It takes effort and time to build trust and to build a following, just like it takes effort and time to build a strong business, whether it's a real estate business or any other business, really. And it's all kind of based on trust. So another way to create some brand recognition and some awareness about what you're doing is find something that you're passionate about and follow those passions. Melissa, I saw you smile probably because you saw the bacon and you realized that this is really all about me. So for those of you who know me well, obviously you just heard about Midwest Dreamin'. I also run a breakfast at Dreamforce every year that Dreamforce is real, that I call the Newbie Breakfast, which initially started with me attending a breakfast someone else held at Dreamforce back in 2011, my first year to Dreamforce. And that breakfast was designed for people who were at Dreamforce for the very first time. And it was organized back then simply to bring people together so that they'd have a familiar face in the crowd through the rest of Dreamforce. When 2012 rolled around, I thought that breakfast was great. It needs to happen again. So I sent a message to the person who organized it and said, hey, are you going to do the breakfast again? And she said, well, I'm sorry, I don't work in the Salesforce ecosystem anymore. So if you want the breakfast to happen, that's on you. So I grabbed that bull by the horns and created the breakfast. I added the word reunion to the title and called it the Newbie Reunion Breakfast to help people realize you don't have to be a first timer to Dreamforce to come to this breakfast. And the bacon theme on this really came about because I wanted to make sure that only people attending Dreamforce would come to this event. So I password protected an Eventbrite page where I was selling tickets, and I used the word bacon as part of the password. So the breakfast has become known as the Bacon Breakfast sometimes as well. And every time I have done this breakfast, I've raised money for Project Night Night, my favorite nonprofit organization. And for those who are unaware, Project Night Night is an organization that helps homeless kids, providing them with a little bit more sense of security by giving them a book, a stuffed animal, and a blanket and a tote bag to carry those around in, no matter where they happen to call home for the night. So what happens now? You've created a personal brand, you've got some following, you're doing things the right way, you're building your following, but you want to take things to the next level. You want to get more engagement. You want to find new followers. So what do? Well, you mix it up. You do something totally different than what you normally do. And yeah, I know I'm contradicting myself when I said stay consistent. There is a little bit of consistency here. You want to find something that you're still passionate about, that still fits in with who you are as an individual, but is vastly different than most of the content you've already shared. And what you're going to find there is you get new levels of engagement, you get new followers, you find yourself involved in a lot more conversations that bring more joy and enlightenment to yourself as well as the people you're talking to. And there's another family connection here. After my wife stopped being a real estate agent, she opened a bakery. So this is our mixer creating some cookie dough, just because I felt like I needed an image there. So what happens if you build a strong personal brand? What are the benefits that you may see? Obviously, recognition, social media, the community, your colleagues and managers may recognize you because of what you're doing. The first year that I was named a Salesforce MVP was 2013, and the company I was working for at the time made a big deal out of it. They gave me an award and a plaque at a company meeting, and it was a little overwhelming, to be honest with you, for me. But it was, in retrospect, it was really kind of cool that they realized the value of what that meant. Obviously, you can gain new opportunities for speaking engagements if that's your thing. You can become a mentor to others if you want to help other people grow in their Salesforce career. And you can find new employment options and new careers because of having a strong personal brand. And that's happened to me on a few different occasions. And obviously, along with all of that is potentially earning a better salary for yourself and providing a better life for your family. So this is my wild little career path slide, starting long before I joined the Salesforce ecosystem. I was in higher education for a few years, working in different roles there. Went through transportation and a huge retailer called Walmart, and I ended up at an internet service provider back in like 2004, 2005. And my role there was managing a federally funded loan program that this organization was using to bring high-speed data services out to rural communities. And I was in a meeting one day with my boss, the president of the company, all of the senior management, going through everything that I had spent the last 9 months working on, explaining to them why I did things the way I did, and that we were ready to submit this paperwork bundle to the government to get the next round of funding of roughly $12 million to build out the next city. And the president of the company looked at me and he says, "I'm sorry, Eric, you didn't do that the right way." He says, "I really need you to do it this way." And he explained it. And it'd be great if you could have it done in 3 weeks. And I was like, I reacted, like most humans react when they get some interesting news. I said, "I'm sorry, John." I said, I can understand why you want it done your way. I can see the value in that, and I'm happy to do that. But you realize it's taken me 9 months to get to this point. And if you want me to put my name on it, doing it your way, I can't do that in 3 weeks. I need enough time to do everything the right way. So it's going to take me 3 months. Well, John didn't like that. And the short version of the story is 6 weeks later, I was out of a job because I challenged him. And apparently nobody in that company had really ever challenged him before, and he didn't know how to react. So he told my boss just to let me go. Ultimately, that was a good thing because I landed in the Salesforce ecosystem about 2.5 years later after a lot of struggle. And that gave me this gentle push. My first manager in the Salesforce ecosystem hired me. I was a temporary call center agent at their company, providing tech support to their clients. And after about 9 months of that, she hired me into a role, or promoted me into a role as a business analyst to launch Salesforce to that call center. And it was a wild interview. I mean, she literally said, I've reviewed your scores at the call center and I know why you're still here. I've looked at all your previous work history and I understand what you're capable of doing. And she said, "So I really just have one question I want to ask you." And, my imposter syndrome brain kicks in and I'm thinking, a one question job interview. Do I just get up and walk out the door now? Or do I hear the question and try to answer it and then let her tell me she's not going to hire me? So I sat there and I said, "Okay, what's your question, Pauline?" And she simply said, "Why are we wasting our time and yours having you support our customers when there's so many other things you can do to help move this company forward?" And, I reacted. I said the same thing the first thing that came to my mind, and which was, well, the call center agent position's the only one you have available, because they were basically interviewing me for a call center agent as a permanent employee for the company. And Pauline said, "Yeah, that's true today." She says, "But give me 3 weeks. I'm working on this business analyst role to help us launch Salesforce to the call center you're working in. And I think you've got what it takes to do that job." And my reaction to her then was, "What's Salesforce? I've never heard of it." That didn't stop her from hiring me into that role. That didn't prevent us from launching the Service Cloud. It did start my Salesforce journey, which was pretty amazing. She did tell me, "I'm sorry, Eric, I can't afford to send you to training. So find a local user group in your area and meet other people who are already using Salesforce and learn from them. Talk to them about how they're using it, the challenges they faced, the obstacles they overcame, and learn everything you can about it from them." And so obviously I was learning about Salesforce, was going to user group meetings where I could find them. That's what the map here is all about. I lived in the red dot, and all of these blue dots are cities in the Midwest, anywhere between 2 and 5 hours away from my house, where I was driving to and from to go to meetings. But it was fantastic. It got me started, grew my knowledge, and helped me get my start, which ultimately led to me creating this personal brand that I didn't know I was creating when I did. I launched a local user group in my city after about 10 months of being in the ecosystem, simply because there wasn't one. And I thought it would be great if there would be a group in my city. I found someone at Salesforce to ask that question to. I didn't actually say, "Hey, I want to start a user group in my city. What's that process like?" I asked them, what's it take to get a group started in my area? And their response was, congratulations, thanks for volunteering to lead the group. And I laughed and I said, no, I'm the wrong person to lead the group because I know virtually nothing about Salesforce. I need to learn a lot more. So I'm not the right person to lead this group because I don't know anything. A couple conversations later, she convinced me that I was probably right for that role because I was so hungry for knowledge. So I launched a user group here in Southern Indiana, and I had 5 people show up at the first meeting. That was 12 years ago now. I'm still leading the group. We still get those same 5 people coming to most meetings, along with anywhere between 25 and 50 more, depending on the timing and the topic. So that was, I suppose that was where my personal brand started, was me launching this user group and setting myself out there and saying, hey, I want to learn Salesforce. Who wants to learn it with me? Unfortunately, during my first year of working on that company, she also said, I found out about Dreamforce and said, hey, I'd really love to go. And she once again said, I'm sorry, Eric, we don't have the budget. You can go on your own. I mean, you can take company time to go, but you'll have to pay your own way. And even 12 years ago, a week in San Francisco was pretty pricey. So I couldn't go, but I really wanted to go. So I caught everything I could about Dreamforce online that year. It was 2010. I think the keynote might have been the only thing that was online that year, but I really was intrigued. And that's what gave me the idea to create Midwest Dreamin' as an event. My brain said, hey, if I can't go to Dreamforce, I'm going to bring Dreamforce to me. And that was it. Purely selfish. I wanted to see what it was like. I wanted to experience some of the content and the community. So I created an event and convinced 100 people and 6 or 7 sponsors to join me in Louisville, Kentucky for a day. And other than the fact that I was unable to enjoy the content because I organized and ran the event all by myself, it was a success. Like I said, 100 people showed up. They enjoyed it. They all talked about it for a long time afterwards, and it was great. Sponsors seemed to get some value out of it. And people kept coming back to me after it. When's Midwest Dreamin' going to happen next? Well, for various reasons in 2012 and 2013, it didn't happen. Late 2013, I was a Salesforce MVP by then, met a lot more people, and decided, okay, the crowd wants Midwest Dreamin', so Midwest Dreamin' needs to happen. So I sent a message out to most of the user group leaders who were in the Midwest and said, hey, I want to do this thing. Who wants to help? And a bunch of hands raised. So we built Midwest Dreamin' up from the beginning again in Chicago. It was in Chicago from 2014 through 2019, with anywhere between 500 and 900 people attending. All the while, I have still been working on my career. I changed jobs a couple of times in there. I had flipped over from working for customers to being on the partner side for working for an ISV partner in marketing. Didn't know I was a marketer, and they hired me as a marketer. And funny, they told me I was a marketer when they asked me during a job interview, tell me about your marketing experience. I responded with, I don't have any. And the woman I was interviewing with, the senior VP marketing at that company, had been to Midwest Dreamin' in 2014. She was a speaker there. She knew about the event. Her company sponsored in 2011, the first year that we had the event. And she looked at me and she said, Eric, you're wrong. You are a marketer, and I'll tell you why. And she basically said, you created something because you saw a need and you watched it grow, or you helped it grow from 100 people in its first year to 500 in its second year. She says, that doesn't happen without marketing. And then she hired me into a marketing role. I was still kind of surprised by the fact that she would hire me into a marketing role when I openly said, I don't know a thing about marketing. And she convinced me I was wrong. It was interesting. Needless to say, I learned a lot in that job, but I think that helped, again, to help grow my personal brand because I became associated with that organization and everything that organization stood for. Unfortunately, like things happen in the industry once in a while, certain things happen at companies that aren't so savory, and reputations get tarnished and things don't go the way you want them to. So it's time to move on. So I moved on to a different role, but I didn't do the job search the traditional way. I just simply sent an email out to some people I knew at companies that I felt comfortable with and said, hey, I'm looking for a new job. don't know if you have anything available for me, but should we have a conversation? And that sparked job offers. The next 3 job changes that I made from that point forward basically were all driven by who I knew and not necessarily the fact that there was a job available at those organizations. And that led me to where I am today at Mogli. Even a year and a half ago, I was working for Active Campaign, who basically they came looking for me. The chief marketing officer at Active Campaign just happened to be that same senior VP of marketing at Aptus who hired me a few years earlier. We kind of lost track of each other, and randomly she sent me a message on LinkedIn that said, "Hey, Eric, it's been a while since we talked. Here's where I'm now working. Here's what we're doing. We got tons of marketing roles open. Do you know anybody that's interested?" And I responded back to her, "Your timing is amazing. I'm looking for a job." The way my mind interpreted her message was her saying, "Come back to work for me." And ultimately I did. And, as I described earlier, sometimes things don't work out the way you expect them to. And that's kind of why Active Campaign didn't last as long as I had maybe hoped my role there would. Things just weren't properly set up for success is probably the easiest way to put it. But a couple of weeks, well, it was probably 2 months into that job, I noticed Mogli had posted a position that seemed really interesting. Mogli was a sponsor of Midwest Raymond in 2018, 2019, so I knew them well. I sent their chief revenue officer a message that said, "Hey, that's a really interesting role you just posted." I said, "But I'm only 2 months into my current job and I'm not ready to make a change. I'm not the kind of person who just abandons a job quickly." And his response was, "Well, let me know when you're ready to make a change." So fast forward a year, I was ready to make a change. And by a strange coincidence, I noticed the same exact job posting by Mogli. This time I applied for the job and sent him a message that said, "Hey, saw your job posting. Just wanted to let you know I just submitted my online application and because I'm ready for a change." And his response was, "Fantastic. I'll have HR call you. We'll talk to you next week." And 3 weeks later, I'm on the job working for them, but not in the role that I interviewed for initially. I applied for what was called a partner alliance manager position, which would have been managing Mogli's relationship with Salesforce as a company. But what happened through the first conversation that I had with them was they realized the value that my strong personal brand brings to companies. And they decided we really need a product evangelist or a community evangelist on staff with us to help grow the Mogli brand and to help bring us more customers. So the company and Mogli and I basically spent the next couple of weeks collaborating on a job description for the job they were going to hire me into, in addition to building out the metrics that I was going to be measured upon to figure out what success looked like for me at that role. It was really interesting. It was kind of fun to be able to tell the company, "Here's what I think is important for this type of role." They did at one point tell me we have a formality that we have to go through because we're a Colorado-based company. All positions have to be posted internally before they can be posted externally. So they had to post it internally to the company to see if anybody was interested. Their founder, by that point, he and I had a lot of conversations by then. And he said, "Don't worry about it. It's a formality." He said, "There's nobody that's going to be interested in the role and nobody here that's going to be remotely as qualified for it as you." So I think it was about 10 minutes after they posted it internally where they sent me a job offer. And that led me to where I am today. So strong personal brand has definitely impacted my career. From a salary perspective, I've probably seen my salary triple since I've been in the Salesforce ecosystem. And I don't think that would have happened on its own if I had not have built this brand that I have. Once I realized I was building a personal brand, I kind of put some intention behind it and started doing things on purpose. All the things that I talked about in the earlier slides, I started putting effort into it and making sure that my brand was recognizable and people knew who I was. I think I had one more slide, but we've already seen it, so we won't go through the shameless plug again, and we'll just stop there and see if anybody has additional questions. Anybody wants to share their own personal journey or whatever, I am certainly happy to talk about it.
Then if anyone wants to come off of mute and share, or any questions, please do.
I wasn't paying attention to chat, so I don't know if anything came in the chat while I was going through that either.
That's a really good question. How do you overcome imposter syndrome?
That is a fantastic question. And you know, the hard part is I'm not sure there's a clear-cut answer to that other than getting yourself simply trying to overcome those fears one time and being successful goes a long way. Dreamforce 2013 was the first year that I spoke at Dreamforce. It was my second year attending Dreamforce and my first year speaking there. And I was presenting with 2 or 3 other user group leaders, and our session was geared at how you run an effective user group. And I remember this moment like it was just yesterday. The 3 of us are standing up on the stage in this huge room that could probably hold 500 people. We're watching the crowd come in and get settled. And there's maybe 75 to 100 people in the room. And I'm sweating bullets and my stomach is in butterflies and tied in knots and all those euphemisms that you want to say for being super nervous. Because I had never spoken in front of a crowd larger than probably 6 or 7 people in my life up to that point. And we kicked off the session. Everybody introduced themselves and talked about who they were and why we felt like we were qualified to talk on the subject. And then we went right into our presentation, at which point I looked out in the crowd because, you know, as speakers, you're supposed to try to make eye contact. People always joke that you're supposed to imagine your audience naked. I don't think that works. I think you're better off finding a couple of friends in the audience and making eye contact. And that's what randomly happened to me. I looked out into the crowd during this presentation and discovered some familiar faces. And all of a sudden that fear and the nerves was gone. It's like just realizing there was somebody out there that I knew that came to this talk because they wanted to hear what I wanted to say. I think that was my imposter syndrome cure, was that realization that people came because they wanted to hear the talk that I wanted to give. I've presented at Dreamforce probably 18 or 20 times over the years now, along with dozens and dozens of user group meetings like this one, at a few other conferences as well. I still get nervous prior to a presentation, and I typically tell first-time speakers when I'm kind of coaching them on what to do and how to get over your fear. I usually tell people, if you're not a little bit nervous before a presentation, no matter how well rehearsed you are, no matter how many times you've given it, I always feel like there's something wrong if you're not just a little nervous, because somebody in the audience might throw a question at you that you don't have the answer for. We experienced that with me just a little while ago. And you know, you kind of get used to those. You realize it's okay to say, I don't know the answer, but I'll find out for you. And that's in effect, that's an acceptable answer and an acceptable response. So I don't know if that helps. I hope so. But yeah, it's tough to get over that by something other than maybe not just putting yourself out there and trying it. Any other questions?
We had one more from Perry. How important is community in developing personal brand? Are the two, community building and personal brands, at odds?
You know, that's a great question. I think they play well hand in hand. I mean, and you can kind of liken that to some of the work that I've done in my career as well. I mean, I'm a product evangelist for Mogli right now, so I hope that over the year or so, my first year here at Mogli, people are going to start to realize I work for Mogli, and they're going to kind of equate Mogli with Eric Dreshfield. That was an experience I had several years earlier for the other ISV partner I worked at. Aptus, who many of you probably know, doesn't quite exist anymore. They merged with Conga and they're going by the Conga name. But I think it was 2016, I had an email from Peter Coffey because he was going to talk about community-led events in the partner keynote where he was kicking it off. And his question to me was very similar to this. He asked Eric, he says, when I talk about community-led events, I want to bring up Midwest Raymond. He says, do I need to separate Eric Dreshfield, the person, from Midwest Raymond, the event, from Eric Dreshfield, the product evangelist at Aptus? Or is it okay to talk about all of those things at the same time? And I was quite surprised to begin with that he even asked me that question rather than just doing what he felt was right. So I was really honored by the fact that Peter Coffey would take time out of his day to say, how do you want me to represent you and your brand or your brands, the brands that I represent? And it was interesting. I got to thinking about that one, and I said to Peter, you know what? I work at Aptus. That's part of who I am. I run Midwest Raymond. That's part of who I am. I'm a Salesforce MVP. That's part of who I am. All of these things make up who Eric Dreshfield really is. So talk about them all. I mean, because they are all part of me. They're all part of my personal brand. So the shorter answer to your question, I believe community really plays a big role in growing a personal brand. It's a great place to grow your own personal brand, to share your knowledge, and to help other people grow their careers, grow their own brands. Because I really feel like community is the reason I'm in this ecosystem to begin with. The people aspect of it is super important for me, and I do a lot of things just to help other people gain their own foothold. Thanks for the question. Anybody else?
We have one more from Jing Jing. What's the motivation that pushes you to continue to promote your personal brand?
Great question. That's an interesting question too. And I think the motivation that I use behind that really is because I want to help other people. I feel like the community and this ecosystem has given me my livelihood and my career over the years, and all this growth that I've seen has come because of others helping me. So I think the reason that I'm so strong about sharing that kind of knowledge and the benefits of a personal brand is to help other people experience that same kind of growth in their own careers and in their own lives.
Just like getting like a good headshot or possibly even a logo or something and using that everywhere, and just being really consistent with that.
That's what I do. Yeah, every single social media account that I have, or the Trailblazer community, which I tend to consider a social media platform, you're going to see the same headshot for me. I hate to admit it, but it's now 7 years old. It was from 2014. I guess maybe that's almost 8 years old now. But I just haven't taken a headshot that I've liked any better than that one. So I just keep using it. If you meet me in person, the hair is a little lighter, a little grayer. There's a little less of it, but I'll still be pretty recognizable based on that picture. So yeah, I think that's important. Like Steve Molis, as you mentioned, a brand or an image. The Charlie Brown character has been Steve's character of choice for a long, long time. He'll change it up every once in a while, but I don't think he's ever used a headshot as his own personal moniker. Any other questions?
Yeah, I think that's all the questions we have. So Melissa, I'll turn it back over to you to do announcements.
All right. We are at the end. Thank you so much, Eric. This was a great 2 presentations. Appreciate it. And yeah, I think that personal branding is really important for all of us to just try to do. And the ideas of just having things that you're known for and being consistent with them, like I think that's a good tip for me. So then let's see, we're going to announce our winners for the gift card giveaway. So thank you everyone for participating with that. Today we have Terry Cole, Francis Barella, Zach Banks, and for speaking, Eric Dreshfield gets one. So if, by the way, any of you want to speak in the future, that is a tip. That's a bonus. So there you go. So thank you so much for participating, y'all. Yeah, Terry, Francis, and Zach, we appreciate you getting involved in the chat and, you know, really helping to interact with us today. So thank you. Yay, Terry, more stuff. Swag that you're probably, what are you going to do with your swag, Terry?
Actually, I gave away my last one of these, and I lose them every once in a while, and I love these. I don't know if they're still available, but they're my favorite piece of swag. And, you know, my
Nice.
It comes in a little bottle like this.
Irish coffee. Yeah, nice. Awesome. Well, thanks.
And I
great.
put it in the chat, but I'm still looking for an admin intern. You have to know Salesforce because it is a paid position, but you don't have to know nonprofits. Everybody who's ever interned for us lands some fantastic job. Actually, way sooner than we'd like. But anyway, it's 20 hours, 10 weeks, and paid. And I am still looking for a co-presenter for Texas Dreamin'. Maybe I won't get selected for Texas Dreamin'. No telling. So first of all, you increase my odds to get selected, but second of all, it spreads the love of free attendance. And the deadline for making presentation proposals, I believe, is January 31st. And everybody ought to go to Texas Dreamin', I hope.
Yes.
It is in person this year, not virtual. So sorry, Eric. You should come down.
The only
Unfortunately,
downside that conflicts with Trailhead DX this year.
it also conflicts with Northeast Dreamin', and I have a speaking session at Northeast Dreamin'. So Terry, unfortunately, I'll be in Providence, Rhode Island at the time.
Well, I don't know that that's unfortunate. That's just spreading the love.
I mean, it is summer, so, you know, maybe summer in Providence is a little nicer than Austin. It depends. It depends on the year.
Actually, it's April, so it's not summer. But
was it April?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's at the end of April. Yep.
For some reason, I thought it was in June. Okay, nice. So yeah, you're missing really good Austin spring weather. Oh well.
I'll just have to put Texas Dreamin' on my calendar for next year.
Next year, yes. Present with us next year. We would love to.
Absolutely.
See you.
And I still, you know, I try really hard to give people credit for their ideas. People are always asking, how do I represent interests and affiliations and memberships and blah, blah, blah in Salesforce, Eric? And I still refer them back to your Dreamforce presentation on that junction object.
Yeah.
It still hasn't made its way into the nonprofit standard product, though it should.
Awesome.
Nice.
Thanks, Terry.
Nice. Well, we are, toward the end of the we're done with the presentation. So we are kind of at our free form, chat with each other section. So anyone else who wants to join into our chat while we're talking, feel free.
Great session, Eric. I learned a thing or two about you, but I knew everything.
Thanks, Stephanie. It was nice to see a friendly face in the crowd too.
Yes, of course. Happy to be here.